Scott, Christopher, Becky, other members of Linda's family, Governor Dayton, Lieutenant Governor Pretner-Solon, Secretary Ritchie, Congresswoman McCollum, other distinguished guests, colleagues and staff, especially Deborah and Mike, Paula and Jamie, and all her friends. Every day, I cut a bouquet of flowers from the pansy bowl that Linda gives me for my birthday each year. The pansy bowl flowers all spring and summer, and I cherish it. It lifts my spirits in the morning and all through the day as it sits on my deck. And I remember Linda. I remember Linda as a woman of great intellect, good humor, a loyal and affectionate friend who delighted in her children and grandchildren and shared a special friendship with her sister. She was particularly fond of the students at Brooklyn Center High School, where she was a substitute teacher. She was a person that many of us considered one of our best friends, including me. I am here to share a few stories about Linda as a friend. In 2006, our desk assignments on the Senate floor brought together a diverse group of us: Senator Scheid and Senator Mua, Senator Torres-Ray and me, Senator Bonoff and Senator Clark, Senator Betzold and Senator Pogemiller. We developed a camaraderie that made long floor sessions an opportunity to build our relationships as colleagues. Senator Scheid had the candy drawer, but don't tell Senator McGuire about that. We teased Senator Betzold as the conscience of the Senate. We giggled on occasion and laughed at one another's jokes and foibles. Senator Scheid, Senator Mua, and I talked about our occasional insomnia. We admitted to watching late-night infomercials on TV. Linda and me confessed they made purchases from those infomercials and challenged me to do the same, but to hold off until the salesperson got to the "just wait" line. I was to call them even in the middle of the night if I ever succumbed. I never did. Linda worked hard and long for good health, but in the end, we could no longer ask her to just wait. Senator Mua and Linda and I took a border tour with representatives from the Canadian consulate a few years back. We visited Duluth, International Falls, the border crossing at Pembina, and Winnipeg. It was a glorious trip, even though it was in January, and included what in my mind was a treacherous climb up what seemed to be no more than a rope ladder to get on board one of the magnificent Lakers, the 1,000-foot ships. At the end of the trip, I was exhausted, but Linda and me were still full of energy and wanted to go shopping in Winnipeg. I more or less grumbled about not being consulted. Their reply in unison was essentially, "Relax and chill out. When you've got the votes, you can skip the talk." Nevertheless, I felt supported by them in many of my legislative initiatives, particularly bills about adoption. I am sure that all of you have stories about Linda. I have others, but rather than share them with you now, I will share Linda herself. Robbie LaFleur, the legislative reference librarian, put together a portfolio of press clippings and letters to the editor spanning Linda's legislative career. I want you to hear Linda in her own words. In June of 1977, after her first session in the House of Representatives, she remarked in the Brooklyn Park Post, "I learned that if you do a lot of lobbying on your bills, it pays off." The same principle holds true in all of politics. You door knock and you win people to your cause. My first memories of Linda were an event at her home for a young and upcoming politician, Mark Dayton, in 1982. Recently, following session, Governor Dayton hosted Linda's family and friends at a luncheon at the residence. Representative Hillstrom and I were honored to be included. It was a delightful event, and Linda was upbeat and at peace with her usual common sense about the limited time she had left. As a beginning tax accountant many years before, I also had the opportunity to watch the Property Tax Division of the House Tax Committee at work. It was chaired by none other than Representative Linda Scheid. She became an instant role model for me. Indeed, she authored major tax reform legislation. The courage of her convictions, however, was demonstrated when she and a colleague voted against the omnibus tax bill in 1987, keeping in mind the Democrats were in charge, and the two of them were summarily removed from the tax committee. The following summer, she was reinstated to that committee by a new speaker, Bob Vanasek. Linda did not hold a grudge and continued her work in tax policy. Once, Linda expressed her opinion forthrightly about the number of attorneys in the legislature. She became one. In an article in the Star Tribune in 1989, said Scheid, who has heard the scorn leaped upon lawyers by colleagues, "I think there's a place for lawyers in the legislature." She didn't say where. Linda was also not shy about stating her core values. Commenting in a letter to the editor on the Youth Access to Tobacco bill in the late 1990s, she wrote, "Perhaps the best thing we can do to protect our children is to love them. Try to understand them, listen to them, impart our values to them, teach them, and then trust them." And then trust them. Following the terrorist attack in 2001, Senator Scheid cautioned against pitting Americans against one another. She said, "We must remind ourselves that we are all together in this struggle against terrorism. Our leaders deserve recognition for their wise efforts to include Americans of all faiths and cultures in our national family." In 2003, she was a champion for the construction of Highway 16. She said, "Transportation is a core public function, and keeping our basic infrastructure in good shape is crucial for our business climate and the quality of life for our families." Linda was proud of her legislation to provide public employees a week off with pay if they chose to be organ donors, an accomplishment of the 2000 legislature and a tribute to the late Representative Darlene Luther, a neighbor, and yes, a friend. Most of us smile when we think of the Surly bill passed this past session in the omnibus liquor bill. She had so much fun with the bill and thoroughly enjoyed all the negotiations it entailed. The omnibus bill passed unanimously in the Senate. It even got my vote, and I almost always, vote against liquor bills for one reason or another. She and Chair Gerlach thoroughly enjoyed working together on this effort. And finally, from 2008, Linda's description of herself and her political philosophy. She said, "I grew up in a Republican family, and I tend to have a let the marketplace work mentality. I'm probably the closest to a free market person here in my party. That doesn't mean I wouldn't vote for a tax increase. I would, but I want to know what it's being used for and if it is being used well. This is the Linda Scheid I know. Shortly, we will be led in a toast by her sons in celebrating her life. Although she was an accomplished legislator, I remember Linda for the quality of her character, her integrity, and her personal relationships with all around her. Finally, my favorite poem when I think about Linda: God never loved me in so sweet a way before as when he brought thee to me and said, behold, a friend. Ave Baleque, Carissima Nostra Amica. Hail and farewell, our very dear friend.